Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chambers is open for public attendance. However, councillors and members of the public may still join meetings remotely using our current teleconference process. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and may be uploaded to our website and our social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. If you've submitted a comment request, the chair will call on you at the appropriate time. The chair may also ask for comments and concerns from the public relating to a particular topic. And at this time, phone lines will be unmuted. If you would like to speak, please state your name. We ask that only one member of the public speak at a time. All persons will be allotted 10 minutes to speak as per our procedural bylaw. We ask that if the meeting recesses, any callers hang up and call back in as the meeting reconvenes. This helps with call quality. We also ask all attendees to mute their devices to reduce disruptions to the meeting. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per the MGA Section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. We have an agenda before us. Does anybody have any additions or changes? If not, a motion to approve the agenda is presented.
Also move.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We had the minutes from our June 6th regular council meeting. Any errors or omissions?
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We have a public hearing for bylaw 2023-08, and I believe for bylaw 2023-10. Yes. I move that the process for the Wheatland County Council meeting as it pertains to the scheduled public hearings will be as follows. Public hearing, first reading if required, then consideration for further readings of bylaw for those public hearings that have been closed. I further move that the above process will take place with the absence of resolutions to go into and out of council before and after each public hearing. All in favor? Motion is carried. I'd like to call the public hearing to order. Welcome, everybody. Does any member of the public have an objection to any councillor sitting on council for the public hearing? And can administration please verify that notice of the public hearing was circulated in accordance with the Municipal Government Act?
Good morning. Yes, the application was circulated in accordance with the MGA requirements. A notice of the public hearing was sent to adjacent landowners, agencies, and advertised in the local newspaper and on the county's website. And the responses received by the county can be found starting on page 120 of the agenda package.
Thank you. And are there any written submissions that were received prior to the deadline that were not included in the council package?
Through the chair, no, we did not receive.
Thank you. Good morning. Please proceed.
Good morning, Council. Taylor Phelps with the county's Planning and Development Services team, here to present bylaws 2023-08 and 2023-10 for Council's consideration of second and third readings. I'll present these bylaws concurrently, providing a summary of each of the reports prepared by administration. And when it comes time for Council's decision, I'll bring up the recommended motions for each bylaw and the order that they should be considered in. The subject lands are 214 acres in size and can be located in the east half of Section 10, Township 22, Range 26, west of the 4th Meridian, which is approximately 1.67 miles west of the hamlet of Carsland. As you can see here on page 94 of the agenda package, the lands are bound by Township Road 222 to the north, Range Road 262 to the east, and the CP rail line to the south, and agricultural parcels to the west. The proponent, CGC, markets, manufactures, and distributes gypsum wallboard products, including interior finishing materials and suspended acoustical ceilings across Canada. CGC is proposing a 200,000 square foot wallboard manufacturing facility, a raw product processing mill, and an enclosed raw product storage facility on the site. In order to do this, the applicant requires bylaw 2023-08, which proposes to amend figures 7 and 8, as well as append the CGC wallboard manufacturing area concept plan to the existing Goldfinch Industrial Area Structure Plan. The subject lands are currently designated Agricultural General District, which doesn't consider the development of the proposed uses, whereas the Intensive Industrial District does. Bylaw 2023-10 proposes to redesignate the subject lands from Agricultural General to the Intensive Industrial District. Heavy industrial uses are discretionary uses in that Intensive Industrial District, meaning that future development permit applications will be considered by the county's Municipal Planning Commission. The site is located, as I mentioned, in the Goldfinch Industrial Area Structure Plan, in an area of the plan that was designated for future light industrial development. Much of the land north of the CP rail line was considered for future light industrial development, as this area would act as a buffer between the heavy industrial uses and the non-industrial uses within the area and in close proximity to the plan area. The proposed wallboard facility is considered a heavy industrial use due to the scope and scale of the operation and the offsite impacts such as noise, appearance, and increased traffic that it's anticipated to generate. The development concept, which I have up on the screen here in figure 7 of the ASP, currently identifies the subject lands as light industrial, which must be amended to heavy industrial in order to facilitate the next stages of development, as well as figure 8, which I have up on the screen here, which proposes to remove a portion of the future road network where that yellow arrow is pointing. And this is because the future development will actually utilize this area for their rail loop system that they've proposed. In addition to these amendments, the applicant has also submitted the area concept plan, which provides a comprehensive planning policy framework that will guide future development of the lands at the development permit stage. The area concept plan was supported by various technical studies and indicates that the site is suitable for the proposed development. The ACP provides information and policies regarding how the wallboard facility site will develop and be serviced, and it accounts for mitigation measures required to address the existing site conditions. This includes the wetlands, biophysical context, and traffic. The site will be serviced with raw water from the Bow River and treated in accordance with Alberta Environment and Protected Areas standards and guidelines. CGC has also proposed to provide on-site water storage for fire suppression purposes. Water from sinks, showers, and flushes will be treated by means of a conventional septic chamber and treatment field, while wastewater generated from the manufacturing process will be captured and reused in the manufacturing process. The stormwater runoff from the development catchment area will be conveyed to a proposed stormwater pond on site for storage. The pond water will be sampled and monitored, and excess water will be discharged to the landscape and vegetated areas on site to allow for recharging of the shallow groundwater aquifer. Open space and landscaping screening policies have been identified in sections 6.2 of the proposed ACP. These policies require the maintenance of the existing wetlands and the implementation of various landscaping treatments to enhance the open spaces that will remain and are proposed on the site. The landscaping plan also illustrates that the development will be screened from Township Road 222 to the north and from nearby residential developments. And a detailed landscaping plan will be provided at the development permit stage for MPC's review. And this will indicate how the berms, setbacks, landscaping, screening buffers, and other architectural treatments will be used to reduce the noise and visual impacts to adjacent properties. I have some visuals here that were provided by the proponent that illustrates their idea of the screening that I just mentioned there. In accordance with the Goldfinch Industrial Area Structure Plan, CGC has provided this mitigation plan that identifies higher standards of screening and buffering for non-industrial land uses in close proximity to the site. And this will reduce, as I mentioned, any negative offsite impacts. The proponent has made amendments to the proposed mitigation plan in response to feedback they received from adjacent landowners, and I'll leave that up to them to discuss in their presentation further. The proposed development will be accessed via a two-way entrance off of Township Road 222, and internal circulation of the site will be confirmed at the development permit stage in accordance with the county's standards. The applicant also submitted a traffic impact assessment in support of their application that evaluated the traffic impacts of the proposed development on the transportation network in the area. Due to the concerns that were raised by the county's transportation department and third-party engineers, administration is recommending amendments to section 4.3, which are titled the TIA and transportation concept of the proposed ACP. And this can be found on Appendix A, which I have up on the screen here, page 23 of the agenda package. And these comments do address the engineer's review and recommended upgrades to Township Road 222 and the intersection of Highway 24 and Township Road 222. The proposed CGC wallboard manufacturing plant area concept plan and the amendments that have been proposed comply with the goals and objectives of the Goldfinch Industrial Area Structure Plan. And they also align with the relevant statutory and non-statutory policies. The proposal aligns with the county's economic goals and policies, which aim to create 100 full-time permanent jobs and will benefit from the access of Highway 24 and the CP rail line to move their goods and services. Administration is recommending that council amend the ACP, as I have on the screen here, and move second and third reading of bylaw 2023-08 and second and third reading of bylaw 2023-10. And then once the public hearings have concluded, I'll be available to present the recommended amendments to the ACP again for council's consideration. I'll be able to address any further questions then. Thank you.
Thank you. Question to administration in terms of process for the public hearing. Should we be conducting 2 public hearings running through the applicant, those for and against for bylaw 2023-08 and then a second one for 2023-10? Or if we're considering the readings concurrently, should we do it? Anyone with, like, speaking in support of either bylaw, or should it be 2 distinct public hearings?
They can be done concurrently, and then when you close both hearings, the motions will be separately according to the bylaw, because the redesignation relies on the amendments to the area structure plan, so they should be spoken at the same time, considered concurrently.
Okay. So I think, so have we opened 1 public hearing or 2 public hearings at this time?
I heard that you opened both when you said
Okay,
at the very
that's-
beginning, you mentioned.
I just want to make sure
bylaws.
that
Yeah,
that's appropriate and possible.
yeah, we heard you open 2023-08 and 2023-10.
Okay.
And
Okay, thank you. So in terms of process in how the public hearings will work is we've heard a presentation from our staff. Next, we'll hear a presentation from the applicant. Then there will be an opportunity for members of the public who are in support of the application to speak. Then there will be an opportunity for anyone who has concerns or who is opposed to the application to speak. Following that, the applicant will be given an opportunity to address any of the concerns that were raised by those who have concerns or are opposed. And finally, our staff will be able to provide any final comments to council. During the public hearing, council will ask questions, but we won't be debating the bylaws. We'll save that for following the closure of the public hearings. I would now ask the applicant to, if they would like to address the public hearing. Good morning. If you can just come to the microphone and introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, mayors and members of council and county staff. My name is Chen Ping. I'm the Senior Project Manager with WSP Canada Inc. And I'm here to present this project on behalf of our client and CGC Canada Inc. And we have Peter and Aaron here. And also we have the whole WSP team, technical team here. So we do have servicing and landscaping and also environmental. If you have any questions, we're available to answer the question. And we do have a very lengthy PowerPoint created, but we are not going to present every single slides of that. Just after Taylor kind of understand what's already presented, we're trying to skip some of them fast. And there's also some detailed response to circulation comments. We also put a few slides at the end, but we'll bring it up if needed. If you have any relevant questions, then we can on that. Okay, so this, my understanding is this public hearing is for the ASP amendment, and then there's an area concept plan, and also the rezoning. So there's three things in one. So let's see if I can work on it. Yeah. So it will be very brief introduction about CGC. And CGC, as many of you already know, that is the Canada's the leading marketer of manufacturer and distributor of gypsum wallboard products and interior finishings materials. So for this plan that we are going to propose here is 200,000 square feet. That's one facility and a little associated connected storage place. We had a rail loop, as you can see, majority of the land actually occupied by this rail loop system. And we will have some solar array, like solar panel on site. The facility operates 24/7. And it's, again, it will produce more than 100 permanent jobs for the community. And also we are currently, right now, we are applying for provincial approval to construct and operate the plant under the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act and the Water Act. Just make sure that we kind of follow all the process that we need. So first of all is why we choose the site. So of course, first one is the railway bordering the site, the south side of the, see if I can point it out here, the south side of the site here. And then also there's an existing industrial area structure plan applied to the site. So that's another criteria. And also the site parameter, actually the size of this site is really allowed us to design this rail loop that meets the minimum requirements that are required by the CPE. So that's the minimum size that we would like have. And also apparently it's close to a provincial highway. And then there's most importantly, the landform of this site is the highest point is on the Township Road 222. So basically there's an 8 meter elevation difference from the road to the south end of this rail. There's an 8 meters elevation difference. And then also from the road to the major part of the facility, which is around this area, is like 2 to 3 meters elevation difference. So when you're standing on the road, the building itself and the rail loop and the stormwater pond got hide very well because the elevation difference. So, yeah, again, I guess, yeah, Taylor already kind of mentioned most of that. Yes, this is a benefit to the community by providing more than 100 jobs. And then also there's a third-party employments like, and also there's because increase in the demand of the local ownership. So the property value actually will grow up around that area. That's based on our previous experience there. And of course, increase in the demand for local suppliers. So that helps in general. I will skip this part. Yeah, this is all complies to the growth management strategy with the county and also the IDP, intermunicipal development with Rocky View, and also MDP as well. I'll skip that quickly. Yeah, this is one of our amendment that we apply for is the Goldfinch Industrial Area Structure Plan. Basically switch this color from blue to purple. I mean, the major reason based on our understanding, because we have a rail, which we will have the train visited the site once every 10 days. So you will see the rail, like the train, 3 times a month. That's one of the reasons. Again, this is the rezoning slides. Basically, we're looking at rezone it to intensive industrial. So again, development concept there, you've seen this before. So yeah, this is the solar panel area, and then we do have a rail loop. Again, this is conceptual, I want to say, because right now we're on the very detailed design. We need the approval from CP, so which means the loop may be a little bit different from what you look at now. And also, we make some of the adjustment to the landscaping, which we will introduce that later, just based on the engagement input on this side. Yeah, and then so basically from what you look at for the whole site is only one facility, manufacturing facility on a 214-acre land, which is really relatively low industrial density development because the loop took the majority of the site. And maybe another visible facility is the stormwater pond on site. Yeah, and then we do preserve a wetland here, and there's an enhanced landscaping around the site. So from Township Road 222, basically, you're seeing screening method, definitely, trees. Okay, this basically, we did our best on the mitigation plan. This is a list of technical studies that we have done for this development: biophysical impact assessment, environmental site assessment, geotechnical investigation, historical resources overview, and then servicing studies, including waters, wastewater and stormwater, and traffic impact assessment and mitigation plan. So we do have all the experts on seat right now. If you have any questions, then definitely we will have answer for you. So I will have Daryl Sargent, the PM, for continue the discussion.
Good morning, Council and members of staff. I'm Daryl Sargent. I'm the lead planner for WSP, and as Jen has pointed out, we've been engaged by CGC to help them through this process and to help them with the design of the plant. Honestly, Chen and Taylor have done such a good job that the next few slides that I'm going to present to you are pretty easy from my respect, but we'll just whiz through some of the technical components of the application that we've put before you. How do we scroll forward to scroll down? There we go. Oh, no, whoops. Oh, sorry, Chen. Scroll forward. Ah, perfect. Okay. All right. So the first one, the transportation concept. Again, this has been outlined, but there's a little bit more detail here. We have the single primary access off Range Road 222. The heaviest peak volumes of traffic are expected, as you would expect, in the weekday AM as people arrive to their place of employment, and then in the evening as they leave. As has been pointed out, this is a 24-hour operation, so there is shift changes during the day. So it's not that every job all arrives at one point. They're spread out over the shifts. We've had a TIA done for the site, and that is included within the application, where there's been some discussion with council with regards to the TIA, and we've agreed that we should be updating that at the time of the development permit coming forward, because at this stage we're still going through the design of the plant, so the actual numbers are likely to flux a wee bit. So we've accepted that that's appropriate. Gosh, I'm terrible at this, aren't I? There we go, I'll get it. The rail system, again, has been pointed out. The rail loop occupies the majority of the site. Funnily enough, given that the site is around 200 acres, we've still had to squeeze this loop in. And that's because CP in the design of the rail loop, they require a certain number of standards to be met. And one of the most critical is you can only turn a train at a certain radius. The minute you try to go tighter, there's increased risk of derailment. And so CP will only accept the rail loop being a certain radius on the turn. And CP also dictates the number of cars that need to fit on that loop in order for it to be described as a unit train or a bulk train that delivers one type of product. So the way that it will operate this loop is that, and Chen has mentioned this, that the train will arrive every 10 days. That train will be unloaded straight away. It comes onto the loop, it goes around and is unloaded. And again, this is to meet CP's requirements. So there's a real demand for them to bring their power, their train, onto the loop to drive around those cars, to unload them, and then be able to take all of the cars with their power away off the site. So that needs to be done very quickly. So the operation, you'll see a flurry of activity within 16 to 24 hours when the train arrives on site, and then that train will leave, and then the site or the loop will basically have nothing on it for the next 10 days. So there's 2 to 3 times a month where there'll be a flurry of activity for 24 hours, and then the rest of the time the loop will be empty.
Good. Sorry, Daryl, just to interject. ReveLink, we've hit the 10-minute mark. If council wishes to continue hearing the presentation from the proponent, well, council will just have to pass a resolution to extend the time limit as per the procedural bylaw. Thank you.
Council's wishes. Councillor Bigger, would you consider a motion to extend the time allotted?
I'll move that we extend the motion or extend the presentation. Do you have to put a time limit on it?
Councillor Kester is asking if we're permitted to pass a motion during a public hearing.
To extend, yes.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Great. Thank you,
Thank you.
Council, and I'll be as quick as I possibly can. So just a couple of other points on the rail loop design. The beauty about a loop is that it actually reduces the amount of noise that comes from shunting cars, because you can imagine you're not coupling and decoupling cars as often as you would if you were sitting them all on ladder tracks, separate tracks. So that helps us to get through the operation quicker and to be a little quieter on the loop. And again, as Chen has mentioned, the northern part of the site is higher than the southern part. Trains can only ramp up at a very, very low grade, which means when it comes off, when the train loop comes off the main line, it is elevated, as you can see with the existing rail line. It's sitting I would guess a couple of meters out of the ground. As the loop comes up the site, that elevation is lost. So by the time we get to the northern portion of the site, the track is right at grade. It's not sitting up in the landscape at all. So that allows it to bury down into the landscape, and you don't have an elevated train sitting above that. And as we talk about mitigation shortly, we've done our best to provide berming and trees in order to ensure that train is hidden as well. So water servicing for the site. Again, Taylor mentioned this. We've reached an agreement with the county to have the county supply water line to the site, and that is obviously because the county would like to supply the Goldfinch industrial area, which makes sense for future growth. And CGC just happens to be the first cab off the rank that we'll be able to tie into that. So there's some technical details there about it. Happy to answer any questions as we go through on that. Sanitary servicing plan. So the most important thing, one of the questions we get asked a lot is that does the plant produce any wastewater? And the simple answer is no. The plant doesn't produce any waste in itself. It recycles its own water. It even recycles its own waste product. So there's really no environmental degradation as a result of anything being discharged from the site. Sanitary, so the septic system on site will only be accepting the let's call it domestic waste that comes from the plants. So the plant's bathrooms and the plant's kitchens, so not from process waste. The stormwater servicing plan, the takeaway message here, and again, the highlights have already been made. The peak flow, the peak post-development flow will be less than the pre-development flow, which we think is a bit of a win. And that is essentially because we're capturing all of the runoff that's coming across off the developed portion of the site. We're putting that through treatment and then discharging it through ponds. So its release rate is lower than the existing site. Environmental requirements. So there's a couple of slides here. I think my summary statement is any federal, provincial or municipal requirements that we've needed to go through with regards to environmental permitting or approvals, we have done. They're either approved or they're underway, and we will make sure that we comply, obviously, with all of the permits that come out. So there's a list of them here. And again, we have our technical expert if you would like to ask specific questions about that. We also undertook some engagement in the community. In March, we released a community newsletter. This is the newsletter that was sent out. It advised people of the design of the plant as it occurred at that point, our preliminary mitigation plan, and invited them to attend an open house, which we held virtually. I think the next slide refers to that public open house, which was held on the 15th of March. We had a reasonably good turnout, I think, from the community, and we walked through any questions and issues that the community had, and that helped us with finalising the design, and that led to some changes that we're going to refer to into the mitigation plan. So some engagement highlights there. There's 3 points that we wanted to point out. The site plan of the area concept plan is conceptual, obviously, at this stage. We've still got to go through the development permit, and there'll be further refining of the design and layout. Admittedly, most likely quite minor, but there will be some refining as we go through. The mitigation plan, again, which has been updated, has been designed to block the view of the rail and the plant from neighbouring properties as much as we possibly can. And as we already said, we will make sure that we comply with all requirements from municipal, provincial and federal levels with regards to air, noise and dust control. The area overlay policies, and Taylor did a good job here of pointing this out. There is an overlay area that we have, and you'll see in the mitigation plan that we've adapted the mitigation on site to make sure that we focus on addressing these policies. And we think we've done a good job in making sure that we address the 3 policies that are on the screen that relate to the mitigation plan. So we're quite pleased with that. And this is the mitigation plan. Now this is the updated version, and the subtle difference, and it is subtle, but it is a big difference for us, is that we, in talking with the neighbours, one of the main concerns was that there was a gap between the 2 berms and the line of vegetation that we were proposing at this point where I'm waving the cursor around on the screen. So what we've done is we've gone away and we got the civil team together, we got our landscape architects together, and we worked a solution where we can get not only the drainage through the site, because that's important obviously, but we made sure that we could fit a berm and some vegetation on top of this. So that ensures that we have responded to the concerns of this, in this instance, the Berlins in this corner property, to make sure that we covered off one of their main concerns, which is being able to sort of see and hear the train. So we've done our best here. And we would also like to point out to the Berlins that we're happy to provide, at the time of planting these trees, we're absolutely happy to supply some trees for them to and have them planted on their site. That's for them. They can decide whether they would like them and how long they want to keep them. But we want to make sure that CGC want to make sure that they're good neighbours. So we will work outside of the bounds of our site in this instance to try and make sure that there's extra mitigation there. So there's a few points there, and again, they're covered within the pack. We have a berm of 1.8 metres high, 10 metre wide around the majority of the northern part of the site, and that is to block noise. As Chen said, the site dips away, so the plant tends to level itself in the landscape and get lower from a distance. We've also made sure that the design of the plant is essentially one story. It has some preclusions where required for the industrial operation. There's some preclusions that rise higher than that, but by predominantly the plant is a one-level plant. So it's designed to sit into the landscape, into the rural landscape, and sort of diminish in its Vulcan location. Certainly it's different than some of the other heavy industrial plant that you see out there that are very tall and you can see them from distance. This will disappear into the landscape, and that's we've done that by intention. So CGC has worked very hard to make sure that the plant was designed that way. And again, Taylor flashed these up. Here's I'm not going to put them all up, but here's just one. There's some slight variation to this, obviously, because we've updated the mitigation plan. So there's a bit of extra trees in the far distance there that is not represented on this plan. But essentially, this gives a good indication of what CGC are proposing with regards to landscaping and the berming. So with the berming and the height of the trees, we've got a significant height there that will ensure that the plant disappears. So some of the points there: Vulcan location of the plant, broken up by extensive berms and planting. Existing view corridors across the wetland have been preserved, and you would note within the site plan that the one wetland on the site that was identified as having the most significance, CGC have kept that, and they're aiming to make sure that no development impacts that. And we've kept the berming away from the northern side of that, so there's an opportunity to view across that wetland. There is additional berms on the southern. We tend to focus on the northern part of the site, but there's additional berms around the boundaries, all around the site, not continuously, but at critical points we've put berms around, and we've kept trees off those because we want to make sure that we reflect the ruralness of the open landscape. So those parts of the site are kept open, just with a nice berm to again, which sinks the building into the landscape. There we go, and that's it. Thank you.
Does council have any questions for the applicant? Councillor Laursen.
First, are you a Kiwi?
Yes, I am. That was a good guess.
I thought so. Just with regard to the trees, because you said conifer trees, so they're typically pretty slow growing. So are you planning to put, say, for example, 70-millimeter trees in there, or
So
seedlings?
We're aiming to go taller than that. We're looking for around 4 foot and possibly with some 6 foot trees in as well. So we're aiming to go right in on top of the berm. So we've got a 1.8 metre high berm with another 4 or 6 feet on top of that at planting.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kester, if you can just turn your microphone on.
You mentioned the railway. Is it strictly for unloading, bringing product in, or are you shipping from it too?
There will be a shipping operation, but not off the loop. If we actually go back, we can look at that a wee bit more because we've only really focused on the loop. So love that picture. There we go. So you can see that the loop, which we often talk about, is here, and then you can see there's a separate spur that comes up in here, and this is to feed both some raw product into the plant, specialist supplies of paper roll and some chemicals that come in that are required for the operation. They will come in on a separate line into the plant, and that also allows product to leave on that line. Predominantly, things are trucked off the site, but having that spur in does allow the plant to be able to feed a greater area and be able to grow to the demands of Western Canada.
Any other questions for the developer? Councillor Baker?
Yeah, back to the berm. How wide is the berm?
It's 10 metres wide.
10 meters wide.
And that's to allow for, and again, no, I'm getting a shade. It's wider than 10 metres. 10 metres at the top.
Oh, okay. Okay. And do you probably maybe don't know this yet, but what is the distance between then the property line on the northeast to the rail?
Are you referring to this piece here or
Yeah.
this piece? So this piece here, I don't know the exact measurement, but I would guess and say somewhere around 20 meters, I would say. We can squeeze that, we can squeeze a berm in there, but it's a squeeze, but we will do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions for the applicant? Seeing no other questions for the applicant, I would invite any persons in support of the application who would like to address the public hearing. Just giving a moment just in case anybody's online, just because sometimes it can take a minute to unmute. If there is anybody online who would like to speak in support of the application, you're welcome to. We'll now move to any persons with concerns or who were opposed to the application. Yes, sir, if you can please come to the microphone and just introduce yourself. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Nathan Irving, and I'm a homeowner nearby the proposed development, for which we're here for the amendments to the ASP and the land use. So just to provide some context, I am across the street from Township Road 222 and just to the east, I believe one property from the one that's showing on the corner of that screen. And so I moved out to Wheatland County in 2020. I lived there with my wife and 4 kids, age 2 to 11. And when we bought this place, one thing we took note of is that this would just be a perfect area for our family, someplace we wanted to settle. Our long-term plan was to remove the existing structure, put a house on a foundation, and settle here long-term. And so we've been working towards that since 2020. Now, I'm under no illusion that this surrounding property will stay agricultural forever. I understand that the area structure plan contemplates light industrial for the area we're considering today. And I also understand, I wasn't here in 2018, but I understand from what I've heard today and previously that that was in recognition by council of the surrounding residential properties, and that would provide a buffer between proposed heavy industrial uses and the existing residential community. Now, I said I'd paint a picture. One point I did want to highlight, when you drive on Township Road 222 into our cluster of residential properties, there's a sign on each side that says children. That's kind of what we came here sort of expecting. This was a residential area, country residential, small, not what we came from, but that's sort of what we expected. And yes, light industrial for the future. We know there's development. We know that you want to expand the non-residential tax base. We know you want to bring jobs to the area, and nobody's opposed to that. But I understood there would be a buffer here. And what's being proposed today is to completely remove that buffer and put intensive industrial right next to these residential properties, including ours. And I haven't heard a lot of justification for that. In terms of the principle of the buffer that's being provided, I can understand justification. This is a great opportunity for wheatland. But in terms of the buffer, the concerns of residential property owners and families there, I suppose one suggestion might be taken away from today's presentation that this somehow isn't the intensive industrial that was contemplated when the ASP was amended, because there's low density on the site, because maybe a quarter of the property is the actual manufacturing plant, and that a lot of this is the solar farm, a lot of this is the tracks. But when I look at the ASP, the way light industrial is defined is relative to its impact on adjacent landowners. Light industrial having no to minimal impact. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't think that this wouldn't have a detrimental impact on my family. The amount of traffic coming through, the amount of noise, a rail line right next to us. Sure, a flurry of activity every 3 days. That's not nothing. That's not light, that's not minimal, that's not non-intrusive. That has an absolutely detrimental impact on me and my family. And I just ask you to consider that. I know there's a lot at stake for wheatland. But I really do feel like that our family is being sacrificed in this process, and that the interests that were once considered in 2018 have been disregarded. It sounds to me like this is a bit of a formality, that there's a light industrial future use contemplated in the ASP. What's being proposed does not fit that, and now we need to amend it. And so I just ask that you consider our family for what it's worth in the process of your deliberations. If anyone has any questions, I'm here, but I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say today.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Irving. To your point about it being a formality, absolutely not. The public hearing is a critical part of any development, and it is important that we hear any concerns from adjacent landowners. Does anyone on council have any questions for Mr. Irving? Thank you for your comments.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak with concerns or in opposition to the application? I'm not sure if I hear somebody online who may like an opportunity to speak. Is there anybody online with any concerns regarding the application who would like to speak? I'll just ask a final time if there's anybody who would like to speak with concerns.
One person.
Yes, if you can please identify yourself.
You got it. Back on there too.
Yes, please go ahead. If you can just state your name. Good morning. Good morning. If there's somebody online who would like to speak for the public hearing, please proceed.
Check to see if their microphone's muted.
Good morning. We could hear somebody express that there was one person online who would like to speak. If you're speaking, your microphone may be muted. We can just hear a little bit of background noise.
Is there anyone online, Devaney? Yeah, and no one's muted on our end, so.
Okay. Not hearing anybody who has further concerns that they would like to express during the public hearing. We'll give the applicant an opportunity to address comments presented.
Thank you, members of council. And thank you for Mr. Irving's comments there. It's good to hear the thoughts of the community for sure. The first thing I would say is that CGC agrees that this is not a formality. And we have understood that right from the get-go. And that is why CGC has worked with so much effort to develop a mitigation plan to address the concerns. The concerns that we have overwhelmingly heard are very similar to Mr. Irving's. They're with regards to the quiet contemplation, they're with regards to the impact of being able to see the plant or hear the plant, and that is why we've spent so much time focusing on the mitigation plan. You don't normally see that with industrial plant. You don't see it in the existing plant that's out there, and so CGC have really put their money where their mouth is on this one. The mitigation plan that you're looking at, there is tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands to put in. We haven't proposed small trees. We've proposed large trees, and they come at a significant cost. So real focus has been put on that. Second thing I would point out is that it's not a buffer zone, it's a transition zone. And the transition zone, the transition overlay, has a series of policies that we have overwhelmingly met with the mitigation plan. We started by looking at those policies, and then we developed the mitigation plan to suit those policies. So we're confident that we have done everything that we possibly can to mitigate this. And I would say our landscape architect can speak to this, but this is absolutely the type of mitigation that we would put in to avoid noise and visual impacts. So we've done our absolute best there. Oh, so that would be smart, wouldn't it?
Mitigation plan. Sorry, no, just show you the right slide.
And just one other point I would point out, Mr. Irving mentioned 3 days. It's not 3 days, it's 10 days. It's 3 times a month, but it's a simple mistake to make. So. Jen, you might want to, did you want to mention?
Alternatively, if it's not a heavy industrial, if it's a light industrial, then there's no rail. Then you might be for 214-acre land, you might see 4 or 5 buildings on it. It can be logistics, it can be warehouse, it can be U-Haul. They are all light industrial use. So just compare thinking about that traffic. I mean, that's here. We are looking at one facility, 100 staff back and forth. Just basically the majority of the traffic generated is by those staff get to the facility and going out. So I would say, alternatively, you still stay in the light industrial. You may not, the situation may not as good as we thought about it because it sounds light, but it kind of heavy on the traffic and on the other things. But anyway, just a thought. Yeah.
So just a question for you guys, just because I'm not that smart. Can you just do a quick explanation of the difference between a buffer zone and a transition zone? And then the other question I would have, if you can handle 2 at once, is there an opportunity to change the access route for the employees to make it less impactful to that particular landowner?
Understood. So the difference between a buffer and a transition zone in our mind is that a buffer implies that it is a complete separation, that you're buffering, you're having an absolute separation of one activity versus another. A transition is exactly that. It is a slow transition. It is you start from here and you transition to another thing. So you don't expect a hard stop, you expect a transition. So that's what the mitigation plan does. Transition. Is there an opportunity to change the access? The short answer is yes, but I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I don't know that would mitigate anything either. But.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the reality is that there is really the best road to come off. There is obviously this formed road. There is an unformed road down the side, which I can't remember. I think it's, I won't guess at the number. I think it's 226 or something.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So coming off 222 makes sense for the plant. It is the developed road. It is taking traffic already. It takes agricultural traffic, and as we understand, there is sometimes a bit of a flurry of activity with at harvest or at planting when we've heard anyway, when there's large vehicles running up and down that road. In addition to that, if we were to try and come off the unformed road to the east, which the number I can't remember, we couldn't really do that because of the rail loop. It would negate the ability to be able to use the site for its intended purpose.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for the presentation from residents. Does administration have any further comments on the application?
Administration has no further comments at this time.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the applicant and all of those present for attending the hearing and making submissions. I'll now close the public hearing.
Do we not have to do number 10 as well? Or is,
I believe we were doing it concurrently, so we opened.
there was nothing different in 10? Okay.
So I think all the information that was presented is relevant to both bylaws. We'll now close the public hearing and move back into council to consider further readings. Council's wishes.
Through the chair, just to point out, I do have the recommended motions for bylaw 2023-08 on the screen here. Once we move through this bylaw, I can also pull up the resolutions recommended for bylaw 2023-10. We'll have to make two separate motions there.
Council's wishes.
I'll move that council amend the CGC wallboard manufacturing plant area concept plan as shown on the attached Appendix A.
Thank you, Councillor Eckert. We'll open the floor for debate. Any questions or discussion? Councillor Laverson.
Just looking at the presentation from these folks, they've done a pretty decent job of mitigation. I don't have heavy industrial in my area, but we have a lot of oil and gas activity that is far more impactful than what this looks to be. So it would seem to me that they've done their due diligence on this one.
Any other questions or discussion? Councillor Laprise.
I would just echo Councillor Larson's comments, and although I sympathize with residents who are affected by this, I also live on a farm. We've lived there, the family has lived there forever, and when we first moved there 20 years ago, all of a sudden a gravel pit arrived. It's just an issue with, there's nowhere in the county that you can develop that doesn't affect somebody. And so it is, I do sympathize. I know that raising children and having extra traffic is not ideal. But I do think that this is an important project for Whelan County, and so I support it.
Councillor Bigger.
Yes, I agree, and I don't take the residents' comments lightly. I'm hoping that we can mitigate a little bit more when it gets to the DP point, but I do think that CGC has really gone on beyond to mitigate what they're proposing here, and they seem to be a company that will suit Whelan County very well, and I'm for it. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Good comments.
it was said in the presentation too, the light industrial could be a transport logistics center, which would be trailers, like a Bison Transport could be something like that, that could be there that would have huge traffic impacts in the area. And some of the developments we've seen in recent times have huge environmental impacts and risks, and this does not have any of that. So I support this.
Any other questions or discussion? I would echo several of the comments. We have the challenging job of contemplating applications, and with most applications, there are impacts to adjacent landowners, and it's trying to balance those competing principles of, you know, it is important that we create employment opportunities in the county for multiple reasons, for, you know, for families, so that there are good opportunities for people to work close to home, also to retain youth. In Wheatland County, it is important that we diversify our tax base. We currently have about 60% of our revenue comes from linear tax from oil and gas, and I think we see some federal and some global challenges and pressures around that sector. And then we have a huge ag sector, which is really important for us to support as well. But in order to continue doing that sustainably, we do need diversified revenue sources. But those impacts to adjacent landowners are really important for us to consider. I am grateful for the care and consideration that has gone into the mitigation plans for the work that is being done with adjacent landowners. And I would echo Councillor Bigger's comments that I think there can be continued conversations, and really at that point when we are contemplating if a development permit application comes forward, that we do have an opportunity through conditions with that as well to ensure that potential impacts are mitigated to the greatest extent possible. So it is, and I would echo Councillor Laprice's comments as well. In almost all areas of the county, a development will have impacts. It's just finding that balance between how do we mitigate? Is it possible to mitigate those in a reasonable way? So these are always challenging decisions. I will be supporting the motion as well, but also very seriously considering the impacts to the adjacent landowners. These are never easy decisions. So any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. There's a second motion suggested for bylaw 2023-08.
They're gone. I'll move that council move second reading of bylaw. Am I on the right bylaw?
Resolution 2 we would be looking at.
That Appendix B mitigation plan within the CGC Wheatland Wallboard Manufacturing Plant Area Concept Plan be deleted and replaced with the version presented.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
I'll move that council move second reading of bylaw 2023-08, this being a bylaw for the purpose of amending the Goldfinch Industrial Area Structure Plan, bylaw number 2018-31, by revising Figure 7, Development Concept, and Figure 8, Transportation Network, as shown on the attached Schedule A, and appending the CGC Wallboard Manufacturing Plant Area Concept Plan, as shown on the attached Schedule B, as amended.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? And for members of the public, the motion is shown on the screens as well. And they will also be in our minutes as well, just for clarity. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
I'll move that council move third reading of bylaw 2023-08, this being a bylaw for the purpose of amending Goldfinch Industrial Structure Plan bylaw number 2018-31 by revising Figure 7 Development Concept and Figure 8 Transportation Network as shown in the attached Schedule A, and appending the CGC wallboard manufacturing plant area concept plan as shown in attached Schedule B as amended.
Deputy Reeve Clausen has moved third reading for bylaw 2023-08. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Administration has prepared some recommendations for bylaw 2023-10.
Through the chair, I'll just bring those up on the screen here.
Thank you. Council's wishes.
I'll move the council move second reading of bylaw 2023-10, this being a bylaw for the purpose of amending land use bylaw number 2016-01 to redesignate Northeast 10, 22, 26 west of the 4th and a portion of Southeast 10, 22, 26 west of the 4th from agricultural general district to intensive industrial district as shown on the attached Schedule A.
Councillor Eckert has moved. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
I'll move that council move third reading of bylaw 2023-10, this being a bylaw for the purpose of amending land use bylaw number 2016-01 to redesignate Northeast 10, 22, 26 west of the 4th meridian and a portion of Southeast 10, 22, 26 west of the 4th for agriculture general district to intensive industrial district as shown on the attached Schedule A.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you to administration for your work on the application and to those who attended the public hearing this morning. We will just take a recess. Perhaps we can reconvene at 10:15. Good morning. We'll call the meeting back to order. We'll move to agenda item 2.41. Councillor Eckert.
2 weekends ago, I had the opportunity to attend Strathmore Homecoming, which was basically, I think, 70 years of the original Sam Crowther School. And it was, I went without any expectations, and I was absolutely blown away by how well organized it was, how just getting everybody together from the area, everybody that's gone, how the school has touched everybody. So I would like to suggest that we send a letter from the county congratulating the Strathmore Homecoming Committee on their efforts, particularly Rhonda Stockwell, because she was such an instrumental part behind it. And like I said, it's the amount of people that on the Saturday night, there were 650 people there for supper. And I'm going to toot my own horn here because I belong to the Cheetah Lions Club. The Cheetah Lions Club supplied the roast beef, and it was an absolutely fantastic. I mean, I think everybody was served in there probably within 20, 25 minutes. It was just the whole committee did a fantastic job. So I would like to make a motion that the council sends a letter to the Strathmore Homecoming Committee congratulating them on their reunion and what a great job it did, and it really did it's just really nice to be in a group that big that I think everybody got along at least for a little while, at least for a few hours that night. So
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
yes, I will make that motion.
Okay, I'll open the floor for discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, for bringing that up. I attended as well, and though I was one of the younger ones there, which is not there was pretty much from all parts of the county and a surrounding area. There was people there that I hadn't seen in decades and stuff, and it was really good. And yeah, Rhonda did an amazing job in the group, and they're still doing it right now. They're following up with lots of stuff, and yeah, I can't imagine the amount of work that went into it, but it was really good for the area for sure.
Any other discussion?
I attended also, and I wasn't one of the younger ones in the group, but had a great time. They also, like, to I don't know when they started doing this, but this took a long time to do. The longevity of this event and how well it turned out should be praised. Yeah, it was great. Enjoyed it. My voice hurt the next day because I had seen so many people I hadn't seen, and it was very good for the Strathmore economy too, just for the area.
I just want to bring up the fact that Councillor Clausen talking about being one of the younger ones there. I felt like I was one of the younger ones there because I had a very, very good conversation with Norma Hilton, who used to be one of my ratepayers, but she's now moved into town. And she graduated before they moved into the new school. So, and she was at this event. So, you know, it's like, I mean, we went from, there was a huge group of people in there. So like I've been out of that school for just about 50 years. And I think Art Eels is probably thankful that I've been gone that long. But yeah, there was school teachers and everything. It was a really, really good event.
Excellent. And yeah, I would echo the comments. I graduated from Standard High School, so did not attend the homecoming. But I've heard nothing but good things about the event, and absolutely to express gratitude to the organizing committee, I think would be excellent. Like Donna said, her voice hurt. I actually talked to people the next day that said their face hurt from smiling and laughing so much with old friends that they hadn't seen in so long. So it is a great initiative, and it was a tremendous amount of work. And I think it's important that we recognize those contributions to our community. No? Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We'll move to 2.42, Council Resolution Tracker.
Good morning, Council. Brian from Administration. On page 142 of your agenda package is the Council Resolution Tracker report. Starting on page 145 is the actual Council Resolution Tracker. As always, anything in yellow is deemed complete. Anything in green is deemed ongoing. If there are any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for CAO Henderson? If not, a motion to accept the Council Resolution Tracker. Thank you, Councillor Laverson. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 2.43.
Good morning, Council. Tracy from Administration. I'm here to present amendments to the procurement policy. This policy I sent out to all managers to ask for feedback. And so the amendments that were made are from managers who purchase more frequently than I do probably. So added in on page 158 is cooperative purchasing. And so this refers to the process of aggregating purchases for large groups of customers. So we will use Canoe Procurement, and this is through RMA. And what it does is they do the RFP process for municipalities. So municipalities can just go straight through to Canoe and purchase certain items and skip the tender process. Saves a lot of time and creates efficiencies, and often will recommend to local vendors to put their name in through Canoe as well, so that they have more opportunities. Secondly, we also added pre-qualification when it comes to safety or information. And so basically all vendors have to complete the contractor pre-qualification, health and safety and information security vendor package prior for it being awarded. And so that's where they will inform the county if they have their core, their safety program. And of course, everyone has to have active WCB and insurance. And if they do not have core, then they can go through the county, but they must follow our safety program and do our training as well. So that's taken on a case-by-case basis that we deal with that. Also added in information technology, and that's just contracts with software. And just that there's a clause to ensure that the county is the owner and able to retrieve and retain data in an accepted machine readable format. And then probably the biggest change is on 167. I'll just go to that. And that is just, oops, that's just changes to limits for contracts, for quotes, 2 written quotes, 3 written quotes, RFP process. And this is what managers agreed upon. So due to inflation and rising costs, rather than 5,000 for a single source or quote, up to 10, and then 5 to 20 was amended to 10 to 30. And then again, 3 written quotes from 20 to 75, increased 30 to 75, construction 30 to 200, etc. And the other change is approval authority, is that we added the CAO on for anything over 200,000 for construction. And I believe those were the biggest changes or biggest amendments to the policy. Are there any questions?
If there's no questions, council's wishes.
I'll move the council approve policy 2.1 being the procurement policy as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Eckert. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 2.44.
All right, at the June 6th regular meeting of the council, the following motion was made that council direct administration task municipal affairs for clarification on municipal investigation requirements for the investigator. So basically, I did speak to the Assistant Deputy Minister of Municipal Affairs, who confirmed that neither the Municipal Government Act nor the Code of Conduct for Elected Officials regulation set out any specific qualifications or requirements for a person who would conduct investigations for Code of Conduct complaints. Councils have broad authority to make these determinations at their discretion. However, Municipal Affairs does recommend that the appointed investigator have relevant knowledge of municipal governance and the MGA and have no real or apparent conflicts of interest that might be reasonably perceived to affect the investigation.
Any questions or discussion? Councillor Larson?
Just that this is pretty much a moot point because we've already defined what it'll be in the new code. So whatever.
Yes. I thought it was important that we seek clarification from municipal affairs given the questioning of the qualifications for previous code of conduct investigations. So I think it's important for public trust in our work, as well as our own confidence to know that we are aligning with the expectations of like the legislation that we work under, as well as the ministry that oversees us as a municipality. Any other questions? Councillor Bigger.
I'll move that council approve the requirements of a municipal investigator report as information.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Move to agenda item 2.45.
Good morning, Council. Councillor Larson, you thought you said the last to me this morning. Back again. Taylor Feltz here with administration with a utility right-of-way agreement requested by Fortis Alberta for Council's consideration. The proposal is an update and extension further east to the infrastructure installations that Council approved at the April 4th Council meeting. And Fortis is proposing the installation of new overhead power lines and poles within the municipal right-of-way adjacent to Township Road 243A and on county-owned lands described as Plan RW5 within Northwest 2224, 20 west of the 4th Meridian. And because the improvements affect titled land in the county's name, Council has to consider the agreement and provide approval. I have the location map up on the screen here for Council. You can see the subject lands are just northwest of the village of Hussar. The agreement was circulated and reviewed internally, and administration has no concerns. Administration is requesting that Council direct administration to execute the right-of-way agreement as presented in the Appendix A there.
Just one thing on that one. You've got Rocky View County there. That's nowhere near Rocky View County.
Through the chair, thank you for pointing out that edit. Yes, that's my error. Apologies.
Otherwise, looks good.
Thank you. It's somewhere over in that direction. Yeah, a little farther.
Thank you for the presentation.
At least you're on the right side of it.
Yes. Yeah.
For the presentation and clarification, is there any questions? If not, there's a motion if we are comfortable making it.
Find it first.
Go ahead.
I'll move that Council direct administration to execute the utility right-of-way agreement with Fortis Alberta, Inc., affecting county lands located at Plan RW5 within Northwest 2224, 20 west of the 4th.
Well, thank you. There's a motion on the floor from Councillor Larson. Any discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. We'll move on to 2.46, Town of Strathmore and Wheatland County Intermunicipal Collaboration Committee Terms of Reference.
Good morning, Council. Sherry Bars with administration to present the terms of reference for the Intermunicipal Collaboration Committee, which is found, the terms of reference are found on page 195 of the agenda package. Oh, did not go to. As an intermunicipal committee was established between the town of Strathmore and Wheatland County, with Wheatland County Council appointing 4 councillors as representatives at its 2022 organizational meeting. The first intermunicipal committee meeting was held in February 2023. The purpose of the intermunicipal committee is to enhance communication and discuss matters of mutual interest with adjacent municipalities. The committee, which is typically made up of elected officials from each municipality does not have official legislative status or decision-making authority. Rather, the committee forwards recommendations to their respective councils for a formal decision. The committee, assisted by administration, drafted a terms of reference to establish how the Intermunicipal Collaboration Committee will work together, how information would be shared, how to guide the decision-making process, and during discussions, the committee agreed to name themselves the Intermunicipal Collaboration Committee rather than Intermunicipal. I think it's easier if I just could call it the IMC, the Intermunicipal Committee. So we'll refer to the Intermunicipal Collaboration Committee as ICC. So at the May 25th, 2023 committee meeting, the terms of reference were approved and referred to the respective councils for review and approval. The topics that were outlined in the terms of reference include the purpose of the ICC, objectives such as establishing and maintaining working relationships with staff, administration, and council to facilitate the implementation of mutual goals, maintaining positive intermunicipal relations and working towards the resolution of any intermunicipal disputes that may arise, to understand each other's strategic interest, providing direction on lands and matters of mutual interest, and to represent joint municipal interests to the municipal government. So they covered items also on how the meetings would be held, things that would be discussed such as provincial regional planning initiatives, sub-regional matters, intermunicipal planning, servicing strategies, shared servicing, cost-sharing strategies, etc. They also outline in the terms of reference the roles and responsibilities of the committee members, the chair, and administrative staff. The meetings will be scheduled and hosted and chaired and will alternate between the two municipalities. And the terms of reference will be maintained by staff from both municipalities and will be reviewed and updated as required. Any amendments to the terms of reference will require approval from both councils. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions regarding the terms of reference?
They looked really comprehensive to me. I feel like the committee has a really clear mandate and roles and responsibilities are well outlined. So looks good to me.
I will just add it was a good collaborative process to come to consensus on the terms of reference too. I think it was a good way to start the committee work, and I was really encouraged with how well representatives from both municipalities worked together. And a significant thanks to our administrative teams. They put a lot of substantial work into developing these, and I think it made the committee's work much easier to come to consensus. So thank you to our administrative teams as well, and to the town of Strathmore for the collaboration to get to this point.
I think the staff did an amazing job working with this and getting us to this point. Strathmore, we have the benefit of going through this many times, and Strathmore has not. Kind of take a step back and relearn some things is good, and move forward. And I mean, they are our biggest urban partner, so I think this is important. And because we are the CMRB, I think it's something we definitely are working diligently through. So,
any other questions or discussion? Council's wishes.
I can make the motion that council approve the Town of Strathmore, Wheatland County Intermunicipal Collaboration Committee terms of reference as presented.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We do have a substantial amount of correspondence. The thank you letters from the Wheatland Society of Arts was really meaningful. So representatives from Wheatland Society of Arts brought this file of thanks to the curb check presentations and wanted to ensure that all of council was able to review the thank you letters. And I thought it was important for the public to see too the amount of gratitude. This was one program that there were actually some questions about when we were reviewing the curb committee's recommendations to council for funding allocations. They said that when they were gathering these letters, there was actually a lot of emotion from a lot of the adults and children that do art programming. And they said that everyone was more than willing to convey their thanks to council and just to help us understand the amount of impact in this region that funding has. So that was just the rationale for including that in the package. And then there is also correspondence from the Wheatland Housing Management Body regarding the information presentation request. Within that, it was indicated that the presentation from the joint meeting would be recorded and that the WHMB Board of Directors will determine when this information will be shared with the public, as well as a press release statement supporting the building of the proposed seniors hospice facility. I guess just a question, is that recording, my apologies, we had our Community Futures, Wild Rose, AGM and shareholders meetings that evening. Is there an estimate when the recording might be available?
Yes, I actually just received an email this morning saying that the recorded information meeting will be up and running on Wheatland Housing Management Body's website later today.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you.
There was also a letter attached that I've forwarded to everybody with the communication that they'd like to send out. So I just wanted everybody to have a look at it. And if there's any suggestions, to let me know, and I'd be happy to forward them.
Perhaps we can have that come back to our next council meeting for council review. Was that a joint?
So it's, I guess.
Sorry, I have not checked my email. My apologies.
No, that's fine. It is not it's not really a joint communication. It is from the Wheatland Housing Management Body. I think they would be happy to take any suggestions, but I feel like it's their communication to send. And if we want to debate that, I guess we have to talk about that at a later time.
Okay. So I guess in terms of correspondence, I don't see any action required. I'm not sure if we want to send, we could send a letter of thanks to the Wheatland Society of the Arts, just thanking them for sharing that correspondence. I don't know if it's necessary, but I'd be happy to just send a little thank you note if council's all right with it. I guess I'll just put a motion on the floor, just so I have direction to do it. Just a motion to direct the Reeve to send a short thank you note to the Wheatland Society of Arts. Any questions? All in favor? Motion is carried. And then just looking for a motion to accept the correspondence as information.
I'm just reading this letter here, and are we looking for any feedback right now? Because I know there was some the other day. We went to the joint meeting.
The WHMB?
Yeah.
That letter is not on our agenda, so I think we
Okay.
have to just accept the information that's on our.
That's what I was thinking. And
package.
then if there's like further action, like we do have a motion on the floor requesting, or not on the floor, sorry, previously endorsed resolution of council regarding communication, but because we don't have that on the agenda today.
So will this communication go out before we have our next council meeting?
Likely, yes.
Okay.
I haven't had an opportunity to review it yet. I don't know if anybody else has. It's probably best for us to put it on our next council agenda just so that folks have an opportunity to review it. But for now, we would just be looking at a motion regarding the correspondence included in the council package.
I'll move to accept the following items as information. Wheatland Society of Arts correspondence thank you letters and the Wheatland Housing Management Body correspondence dated June 12th, 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. That brings us to the conclusion of our agenda and meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.